With everything that CGC has going on right now, I just found the one thing that's going to save this company. Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher. So let's jump right into it. We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. Bang! What is going on, YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and thank you guys for joining me for another video here on the channel. With everything that CGC has going on right now, from the reholdering scam to the new scam where they have employees stealing books from customers, we're talking about special Marvel labels today. Now, I know. A lot of things going on, and there's a little bit of sarcasm in the beginning of this video where I said this is going to save this company, so take it for what it's worth. But CGC did put out a post recently saying, what should the new Marvel labels be? And I want to show you guys what I mocked up for you guys here today. But before we get started in the video, I want to remind you guys, if you're not a current sub of the channel, do yourself a favor and hit that sub button. Do me a favor and smash that like button. And also check me out on Instagram and now on Twitter. With that said, guys, I want to show you some new mock-ups of new special Marvel labels that I came up with, and I want to hear your comments and what you think CGC should do. So if you guys are not on Instagram and you haven't checked out CGC's post, they put up a feeler out there for everyone in the comic book community about what we'd like to see for the next iteration of Marvel labels. And it really got me thinking. They used some of the great characters already, the mainstays like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Panther, Spidey a bunch of different times, Venom, Hobgoblin, and a slew of other ones. Hell, they even have Invincible labels. But it got me thinking, what do I really want to see on this next iteration? You guys know I'm really collecting raw books right now only. So what would make me send my books in? That's it, of course, classic Spider-Man villains. I have so many Spidey villains book, especially from the early Silver Age, that are raw. I don't know if I'd send them in, but if they had some classic labels, it might get me to think about doing it at the very least. So I kind of mocked up my own original OG Spidey villains, and I want to show you guys them here today. What I really want to accomplish with this video is I want you guys to share this video with CGC to kind of give them some ideas if you do like special Marvel labels like I do. So let's jump into what I did. So the first one I decided to mock up was the Rhino, and this of course is a classic picture from John Romita Sr. straight out of Amazing Spider-Man number 41. That classic cover, so underappreciated. But to me, how many ASM 41s would be submitted to CGC if we actually saw something like this on a Marvel label? So a side note, guys, you could see this label that I put together. It says Amazing Fantasy 15 PG off-white pages. They're all going to say that. And actually, when you get a special Marvel label, CGC actually shifts everything to kind of one side to feature that character on the right. So this is something I decided to mock up myself, so it's not actually going to be 100% correct, but I wanted to give CGC a little bit of something to go by because I'd love to see some of these labels appear. So this is my mock-up of the Rhino, and I know CGC can do a better job than I did. Next, of course, is Dr. Octopus, who first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 3. But think about how many classic Doc Ock covers there are. 55. We have 3, the first appearance. We have so many issues featuring Doc Ock. I think a lot of books would be submitted, and it definitely would benefit CGC. And I'd love to see my ASM 3 with this freaking label on it. Now, again, I chose a Doc Ock picture that I found online. Not the greatest picture. I really love a better picture of it, but I know, like I said before, CGC could do a much better job than some YouTuber. Up next, of course, is a picture of the Scorpion. The Scorpion I chose is a more of a modern version of the Scorpion. I wasn't a huge fan of the way Steve Ditko did the Scorpion back in the day, but either way, I love the way this one looks. ASM 20 is his first appearance. 19 is Matt Gargan's first appearance. Not sure how many Scorpion books would come in to be regraded, but either way, I love the way this one looks. Up next, of course, is Kraven the Hunter. Now, I decided to use this version of Kraven the Hunter straight out of a Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man cover. Of course, done by the great John Romita himself, one of my favorite Kraven photos. I also would love to see a Mike Zeck version of Kraven the Hunter out of Kraven's Last Hunt, one of my favorite storylines, but I think this one, classic OG John Romita, is the way to go. Up next, of course, is the Lizard. I decided to go with a more modern version of the Lizard, only for the fact that I couldn't find really any great pictures to use of classic Lizard, and I'm not really a huge fan of the way Steve Ditko did the Lizard in the beginning. My favorite iteration of the Lizard is Todd McFarlane. villain. His version of the Lizard was absolutely spot on and how he should be featured in art. Regardless, a lot of Lizard books, of course, ASM number 6 was his first appearance, but also a lot of modern books that could be sent in featuring the Lizard, and that's why this is one of my faves. Up next, of course, is the Sandman. Now, I love a lot of Sandman issues. There are not a lot of great covers that come to mind right off the bat, but his first appearance, of course, is Amazing Spider-Man number 4, a classic 4-square cover. Again, if I'm going to use a Sandman cover, probably going to be a mix of classic and new version, so that's why I chose this one. I think it looks really good. You guys let me know in the comments what you think, but Sandman, I always enjoyed reading some of his comics, especially in the early versions of Spider-Man. Then we have the Vulture, and for me, early Silver Age Vulture is what they're probably going to see at CGC if they decided to go ahead with this one. I decided to go ahead with a more modern version of the Vulture, only because I couldn't find a great Silver Age picture to use. But again, ASM number 2 was his first appearance, and I'd really love to see a classic Vulture on that book and on that label. Tell me guys what you think of this one, modern Vulture or classic OG. And of course, how could we have special Marvel labels, special Spidey villain labels without talking about the Green Goblin, his arch nemesis? Now, you guys know I'm a huge Amazing Spider-Man number 39 fan. It is my absolute favorite cover in comics, and I would love for it to be featured on the label in a CGC holder. Now, this is what I came up with, but if they can actually get the entire cover on there with Spider-Man of Green Goblin kind of taking him away on the glider, I would absolutely love to see that. I would send in all my copies of Amazing Spider-Man number 39. And again, how many great Green Goblin covers are there? There are infinite. His first appearance is Amazing Spider-Man number 14, which really doesn't reflect this version of the Green Goblin, but regardless, this is my favorite, so that's what I went with. Up next is a book that is super hot right now, the first appearance of the Kingpin, Amazing Spider-Man number 50, and I went with classic OG John Romita Kingpin as well. He is my absolute favorite, and this is a classic photo of the Kingpin from an early issue, so definitely this is the one I would go with. The only other option to me is a cover from Amazing Spider-Man number 50. If you put that on a special Marvel label, I think that is the way to go, especially with the show coming out, Daredevil and Kingpin going to be a part of that, and then of course possibly rumors out there of Spider-Man 4 featuring the Kingpin as the main villain. And of course, then we have Electro, one of the classic Spider-Man villains. Now, I decided to go with an OG/modern version of Electro because I thought it looked really great. His first appearance was in Amazing Spider-Man number 9, cover art by Steve Ditko, but I prefer this version of Electro. It just brings something to the label. You guys let me know what you think down below. I think this one is a must-do by CGC. And lastly, this is not a Spidey villain, but someone I'd really love to see featured for the first time on a special Marvel label, and it is the Punisher. And he first appeared on Amazing Spider-Man number 129, and I really love this classic Mike Zeck Punisher logo. To me, I think it just screams Punisher. Stands there, of course, with the white gloves, the white Punisher symbol, the white belt, and a gun in his hand. Now, what is your favorite version of the Punisher? Maybe you want to see his first appearance as Gil Kane cover on a special Marvel label. That is also possible with me. I decided to go with this one, but as always, I want to hear what you think. I think Punisher is someone they have to do no matter what because he has yet to appear on a label at all for CGC. Alright, so these are all my special Marvel labels. I want to hear from the comments down below. What do you think? What do you think CGC should do for the next iteration of Marvel labels? To me, I think it's classic Spidey villains. I think that's the way to go. Unless they're going to rehash some of these original characters that they've used so many times before, I'm assuming they want some new books in, some books that they haven't seen before, and I think Spidey villains is the way to go in my opinion, because I think a lot of people out there collect Spidey. Regardless of genre, regardless of era, people are always going to send in Spidey books. The one character I think they definitely have to use is the Punisher. So many ASM number 129s are going to flood in once that label comes out. So CGC, if you're watching this video, I know you have a lot of shit to take care of in your house. Do that first and then put out these labels. We want to see classic Spidey villains, or at least I do. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.